The price of silence and the power of speaking. Anyway, you know what nobody tells you about survival mode? That it doesn't just end when the danger passes, it lingers, it whispers. It convinces you that the boundaries you once had, the ones that got trampled, squandered, ignored, were never really yours to begin with. And so you move through life a little softer than you should be, a little quieter, a little more willing to let things slide because, well, you've already been through worse, right? Wrong. I recently had the profound honor of sitting down with Lynee Mallory, a force of nature who is making this world better by teaching us that our grace, our power, and our voice are not up for negotiation. Lanee's work centers on helping Black women, especially those in entertainment and professional spaces, reclaim what was stolen, set boundaries that hold, and speak truths that shake foundations. And today I'm sharing the insights from that conversation with you. Because what Lynee taught me, what the stories we explored together revealed is this: your softness is not weakness, your boundaries are not optional. And your story, the one boiling inside you right now, deserves to be told with your head held high. Let me start here. Boundaries after victimization are not the same as boundaries before. They're harder to set, harder to keep, because trauma teaches you that your lines don't matter, that people will cross them anyway, that speaking up might cost you more than staying silent. And so you become passive, not because you're weak, but because passivity feels safer than risking another wound. But here's the thing Lynee Mallory reminded me of. And here's what I want you to hear today. Squandered boundaries from your past do not define your worth in the present. You get to reclaim them. You get to redraw them. You get to say, not anymore, and mean it with every fiber of your being. Let me tell you about Keke Palmer. You know her, the vivacious, talented actress and singer who's been in the industry since she was a child. In 2024, during a New Year's Eve performance in Las Vegas, Kiki experienced what so many Black women in entertainment face: public shaming over her body, her choices, her autonomy. Her baby's father publicly criticized her outfit, and the internet piled on. This wasn't just about a wardrobe choice. This was about years of objectification, years of being told her body wasn't hers to control, years of boundary violations that started when she was too young to even name them. Cake had been in Hollywood since childhood. She'd endured casting couches disguised as mentorship. She'd smiled through interviews where grown men commented on her developing body. She'd navigated an industry that saw her as a commodity before she even understood what that word meant. And all of that, all those years of having her boundaries ignored, trampled, dismissed, created a pattern where speaking up felt dangerous, where setting a line in the sand felt futile. But on that New Year's Eve, something shifted. Kiki could have stayed silent. She could have apologized, shrunk herself, played it safe, but she didn't. She set a boundary publicly on social media. She refused to apologize for her artistry, for her body, for her right to exist as she chose. And you know what happened? She regained control. She launched a doll line. She continued thriving in film and television. She snapped out of the passivity that trauma tries to lock us into, and she protected her self worth. That's the lesson. That's the first thing Lynee Mallory wants you to remember. Set fierce boundaries, even after victimization, especially after victimization, because those squandered lines from your past, they don't define your worth. They never did. You reclaim them to protect your grace and your power in any industry, in any room, in any relationship. Kiki's story sparked conversations across social media, in boardrooms, in living rooms. Black women everywhere began asking themselves, how many times have I let someone cross my boundaries because I was afraid of being labeled difficult? How many times have I stayed silent because I didn't think my voice mattered? How many times have I accepted less than I deserve because I was taught that survival meant enduring, not thriving? But let's be real, setting boundaries costs. And nobody warns you about that part either. Lupita Nyong'o, Oscar winner, trailblazer, a woman who came from Kenya to conquer Hollywood with a performance in 12 Years a Slave that left us breathless. But before the accolades, before the red carpets, Lupita faced predatory advances. She faced contract disputes designed to exploit her. She faced men in power who assumed her silence was guaranteed because she was new, because she was black, because she was a woman. Lupita has spoken publicly about the grooming she experienced early in her career, the way powerful men would offer opportunities with strings attached, the way they would test her boundaries, pushing a little further each time, seeing how much she would tolerate, the way they counted on her gratitude, her inexperience, her fear of losing everything she'd worked for to keep her compliant. And for a while, like so many of us, Lupita stayed quiet. Not because she didn't know it was wrong, but because the cost of speaking felt insurmountable. What if no one believed her? What if she was blacklisted? What if her dream, the one she'd sacrificed everything for, was taken away before it even began? But Lupita stood her ground. She reported the harassment. She sought legal counsel. She became a vocal advocate in the Me Too movement, sharing her story so others wouldn't have to suffer in silence. But standing up came with a cost: career threats, whispers that she was difficult, the fear of being blacklisted in an industry that punishes women for refusing to be complicit in their own exploitation. Lynee Mallory's second lesson is this: standing for what's right can cost you. It can cost you jobs, opportunities, relationships. It can cost you the comfort of blending in, but it preserves your integrity and it inspires others to rise above passivity. Lupita's boundary holding didn't just protect her, it changed the culture. It made sets safer. It gave other Black women permission to say, no, not me, not today, not ever. And here's the part that gets me. Here's the part that Lynee Mallory emphasized in our conversation. Lupita didn't just survive, she thrived. She went on to win an Oscar. She starred in blockbusters. She wrote children's books. She became a voice for women who had been silenced. And she did it all while maintaining her grace, her dignity, her refusal to let trauma define her. That's what reclaiming your boundaries looks like. That's what turning pain into purpose looks like. That's what refusing to be a victim while still honoring your victimization looks like. And here's where it gets personal. Here's where Lynee Mallory's insights hit home for so many of us in the soft girl era community, because we've been taught that being strong means being silent, that being graceful means swallowing our pain, that being professional means letting things slide, even when they're boiling inside us, even when we know something is deeply, fundamentally wrong. Taraji P. Henson knows this intimately. Taraji, who rose from single motherhood and personal trauma to become one of the most celebrated actresses of our time, faced decades of pay inequity. She was undervalued, underpaid, and dismissed in an industry that profited from her talent while refusing to compensate her fairly. And when she spoke up, when she walked away from unfair deals, when she exposed the disparities publicly, she risked everything. She risked being labeled difficult, ungrateful, too much. Taraji has been transparent about the toll this took, about the nights she cried herself to sleep wondering if she'd made the right choice, about the fear that gripped her when she walked away from projects that didn't value her, about the anger that boiled inside her when she watched less talented, less experienced white actresses get paid multiples of what she was offered. But Taraji chose integrity over compromise. She chose to expose the silence of major companies that ignored wrongdoing, that perpetuated inequity, that counted on Black women to stay quiet and keep working for less. And you know what? She broke through. Empire, The Color Purple, Golden Globe wins. A producing empire, she shattered glass ceilings with her head held high, embodying the vivacious grace that Lynee Mallory speaks of, the kind that refuses to shrink, refuses to settle, refuses to let trauma have the final word. This is Lynee Mallory's third lesson, and it's the one I need you to tattoo on your heart. Your story's voice matters. Hold your head high with vivacious grace. Share the boiling truths about companies, industries, systems that ignore wrongdoing. Turn your pain into purpose without becoming a victim, because your silence protects no one. But your voice can change everything. Taraji's public advocacy for pay equity didn't just benefit her, it opened doors for countless Black actresses who came after her. It forced studios to confront their discriminatory practices. It gave other women the courage to demand what they're worth. That's the ripple effect of speaking up. That's the power of refusing to let your boundaries be squandered. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but what if I speak up and lose everything? What if I set a boundary and get fired? What if my truth costs me my livelihood, my reputation, my peace? And I hear you. I do. Because those are real fears. Those are valid concerns. But here's what Lynee Mallory reminded me. And here's what Keiki Lupita and Taraji's stories prove. The cost of silence is always higher than the cost of speaking. The cost of squandered boundaries is always greater than the cost of enforcing them. Because when you stay silent, when you let things slide, you lose yourself. And no job, no opportunity, no relationship is worth that. This is the heart of the soft girl era. This is the sacred pause we've been waiting for. It's not about being weak, it's not about giving up. It's about recalibrating. It's about asking ourselves, how am I learning to be soft in a world that taught me survival? It's about releasing the cape, redefining strength, and embracing the kind of softness that comes from knowing your worth, setting your boundaries, and protecting your peace without apology. Because here's the truth: you don't have to be in survival mode anymore. You don't have to carry roles, masks, responsibilities that were never yours to begin with. You don't have to prove your strength by enduring what breaks you. You get to rest, you get to heal, you get to say no without guilt, you get to reclaim your identity, not the version shaped by trauma, by industry expectations, by people who benefited from your silence, but the real you, the one who's been waiting to bloom. So here's what I want you to do today, right now. Audit your boundaries. List one squandered line from your past, one boundary that was crossed, one moment where you stayed silent when you should have spoken, and then enforce it unapologetically. In your next professional interaction, in your next personal conversation, in your next moment of choice, enforce it. And if you're not ready to do it publicly, share your stand anonymously online, amplify the conversation, because your voice matters, your story matters, and the world needs to hear it. Lynee Mallory is doing this work every single day, helping women like you, like me, like Kiki, Lupita, and Taraji reclaim what was stolen and step into the fullness of who we were always meant to be. And I'm so grateful for the wisdom shared in our conversation, for the reminder that our grace is not fragile, our power is not optional, and our voices are not up for debate. But here's the part that keeps me up at night. Here's the part that should keep you up too. For every Keiki, every Lupita, every Taraji who found the courage to speak, there are thousands who didn't. Thousands who are still silent, thousands who are still enduring, thousands who are still waiting for permission that will never come unless we give it to them. And that's where you come in, because this isn't just about your boundaries. This isn't just about your voice. This is about the collective power of Black women refusing to be silenced, refusing to be exploited, refusing to accept less than we deserve. This is about creating a culture where the next generation doesn't have to fight as hard as we did, where they don't have to sacrifice as much, where they don't have to choose between their integrity and their livelihood. So here's my challenge to you: don't just audit your boundaries, armor them. Don't just enforce them privately, model them publicly. Don't just reclaim your voice, use it to amplify others, share your story, expose the wrongdoing, name the companies that ignored you, call out the systems that failed you, not from a place of bitterness, but from a place of power, not as a victim, but as a victor, because the world is watching. The next generation is watching, and they need to see that it's possible. They need to see that you can survive trauma and still thrive. They need to see that you can set boundaries and still succeed. They need to see that you can speak your truth and still stand tall. This is your moment. This is your time. This is your soft girl era. Not the era of weakness, but the era of radical self love. Not the era of silence, but the era of unapologetic truth telling. Not the era of survival, but the era of thriving with grace, power, and purpose. So go, audit those boundaries, armor them, share your story, amplify your voice, and watch as the world shifts, not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it, because you became it, because you refused to let anyone, any industry, any system tell you that your worth was negotiable. You are not defined by what was done to you. You are defined by what you do next. You are not defined by the boundaries that were crossed. You are defined by the boundaries you set moving forward. You are not defined by your silence. You are defined by the courage it takes to speak, to stand, to hold your head high with vivacious grace and say, "This is my story, and I'm telling it my way." The price of silence is too high, but the power of speaking, that's priceless. And it's yours for the taking, right here, right now, today.